Hello and welcome to the 1991 Royal Rumble review. I'm Bret Mix, and just before any Royal Rumble, I always do a disclaimer. Before any review for these Royal Rumbles, rather, I do a little quick disclaimer from the start of the video that this DVD review is reminiscent of the reviews I used to write on WrestlingDVDNetwork.com, but that site is not owned by me. It is run by Daniel B., the moderator. I have nothing to do with that site anymore. Only my reviews are still on there. They have not taken them off. So basically, I'm going into the review I wrote, my own. So it's not plagiarized. So I always like to leave that disclaimer. But subscribe and like to my videos if you want to see me talk other wrestling videos. Today we're going to tackle Royal Rumble 1991. And finally, for a Rumble, it's got a pretty decent undercard. So let's get right into this one. First, let's talk about some facts for the Rumble, actually, before we just jump right into the matches. This Royal Rumble took place Sunday, January 19th, 1991, at the Miami Arena, live on pay-per-view from Miami, Florida, in front of 16,000 fans, the fourth Royal Rumble event. During the event, sensational Queen Sherry on pay-per-view begged the Warrior by the entrance stage to defend his WWF title against the Macho King Randy Savage at WrestleMania 7. And Warrior just shook his head. As a consequence, Savage would eventually give the Warrior the title in his match with Slaughter due to the answer he said no. So Savage was like, fuck that shit, I'm gonna make sure Warrior isn't even the champion. As Warrior had won the title 1990, the year before, at WrestleMania 6 over Hulk Hogan, as I'm sure all of you are aware. So Rick Martel in this Royal Rumble broke the longevity record, lasting 52 minutes and 17 seconds. He broke Ted DiBiase's record from the Rumble the year before. Soon and Rowdy Roddy commentary for the event. While this was the first Rumble where Jesse the Body Ventura wasn't on commentary, it's also he never did come back for commentary because he left in 1990. But this is the first one without Ventura. But still, this is once again this is the fourth Royal Rumble in a row where we don't have the same two commentators. If you remember Vince McMahon and Jesse in the first Rumble, Gorilla and Jesse second Rumble, Tony Schiavone and Jesse in the third Rumble, but now Gorilla Monsoon teams up with Roddy Piper on commentary for the 1991 Royal Rumble, and Piper did the job. He was pretty eccentric, his wild, loud, usual style, and that's pretty good. That was a pretty good tandem. Randy Savage became the first Rumble no-show as no one came out at number 18. This is a spot repeated in many Rumbles after this, where the buzzer rings and nobody comes out. Well, Macho Man was the first one to do it. He seems like he's the first one to do a lot of things. Powell drives someone through a table, top rope maneuver, woman manager. He's quite the innovator, is the Randy Savage. Anyway, let's get to the actual undercard now. There's one more thing about WWF magazine. Oh, that doesn't matter at all. Alright, but what does matter is the opening match. The Rockers versus the Orient Express. Pat Tanaka and Kato versus Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels. Fuji managed the Orient Express. This is the best Royal Rumble pay-per-view match in history to this point, and still stands today as one of the best ever openers. And there's a lot to choose from today, let's say that. The Hot Rod doing color commentary, he during this match Gorilla went, "What a match this is!" And then Piper responded, "And this is only the first match of the night." A typical color guy spot where you go, "Look, so much has already happened, and look, so much is going to happen." You know, it makes the pay-per-view viewer go, "Oh, good thing I bought this pay-per-view." So that gets set, and they're really wild and enthusiastic, much like this match was, back and forth at just an incredible pace. This is honestly one of the best tag matches of the early 90s and one of the best tag matches in the WWF around that time. All right. In the end, Marty Jannetty pinned Tanaka with a roll-up at 19:15 to get a win for the Rockers. Just awesome. 4.25 stars I rated it, and that's what I'll keep it. 4 stars and 1/4. Next was, of course, the WWF does this. The Big Boss Man. Ugh. No offense to Ray Trailer. He definitely is a good guy and he has his spot. But I'm talking about quality wrestling with amazing work rate, and then all of a sudden they go Big Boss Man versus the Barbarian with Bobby Heenan. So just picture for a second, picture the Orient Express and the Rockers, and then Big Boss Man, Barbarian. Just picture the styles clashing just in your head. I know if you're watching this, you're a big wrestling fan. So, yeah. Styles, your attention span, this is your pitch break, pretty much. And it lasted way too long. So I only gave it a star for the effort. The Big Boss man at the top pinned the Barbarian after he rolled through a high cross body at 14:15. So they give the opening match 19 minutes and they give the second one almost 15. Quality over quantity, I guess. The third match of the night was the WWF title match, the infamous Sergeant Slaughter vs. Ultimate Warrior match, where Slaughter becomes the champion and Savage screws over Warrior, leading to one of the best matches ever at WrestleMania 7 between Warrior and Savage. I'll definitely be reviewing the WrestleManias after these Royal Rumbles because there's too many not to review, and I want to say my opinion on a lot of the classics of Mania over the years. So hit subscribe and like if you haven't already. All right. Sergeant Slaughter and the Ultimate Warrior for the WWF title. This was the first time it was on the line at a Royal Rumble event. And it came halfway to the show. It was good booking. There's a lot of halfway through the show matches, WWF Championship matches at this time. If you think back WrestleMania 8, SummerSlam 92, this is another one here at Royal Rumble 91. So the crowd was red hot for the Warrior, and Slaughter at the time with the Iraqi War was a sympathizer, and the whole shebang. They just played it off really good, and this match was better than it had any right to be. But the ending is what I remember. Comes up that hits Warrior and then chases Warrior down, and Warrior chases him down, and then camel clutch, and all of a sudden Slaughter wins at 12:47. We got a new champion. The fans chanted bullshit. Piper and Monsoon act like they were just about to call 911, and yeah, it was a controversial ending, kayfabe wise, and it just came off a little bit unusual. Like there has to be a reason for this, and that reason was for the Hulk Hogan to beat the Slaughter at WrestleMania 7. It was all led up to that. And it led up to the WrestleMania 7 ending, so how can you really hate it, right? I mean, Slaughter becoming champion in the 90s is a little bit ugh, but how can you hate? The match was better than it had any right to be. The controversial finish, it got people talking. The storyline led to both great matches at WrestleMania 7. You can't all the way hate it, so I rated it 2.5 stars. Half stars is fine by me. This one is interesting. Ted DiBiase and Virgil versus Dusty Rhodes and Dustin Rhodes, because this is where we get the finally, this is where we get the not the tag match, but this is a tag match, but this is where we get where Virgil finally is up to man. Virgil's had enough of DiBiase's shit at this point, dude. Just enough. He was just done with doing DiBiase's dirty tactics, polishing his feet, cutting his toenails, dribbling his basketballs, getting him a fan right up close, shining his shoes, that kind of stuff. Virgil was just done. And really interesting to see Goldust and the American Dream tagged up against these guys, against Virgil and DiBiase. But this is always remembered to set up to WrestleMania 7 again between DiBiase and Virgil's big break. So I rated this match 2 stars. On to the main event, the 1991 Royal Rumble match. Hogan, the returning winner, cut a big time promo. I love these old school Rumbles where they cut all the promos. Like every single wrestler got time to say something. I love when it comes to that. So Bret Hart drew number one for the second time in its 4-year history of the Royal Rumble. This is just the fourth Rumble match, and Bret Hart drew number one for the second time. Dino Bravo drew number two, and I believe Dino Bravo began. I believe Dino Bravo was either an earlier entrant in one of the few Rumbles I just went over, so he also is another early entrant in this one. Bret Dino go at. There's obviously that story from Wrestling with Shadows where Bret Hart got bumped off the apron and then his sternum hit the security barricade wall. Uh, that rings a bell because Bret Hart always in the review of that movie, that Wrestling with Shadows, he said when he was reviewing it back that Dino Brown shot him. He fell right off the apron, and when he landed on the apron, he went sternum first right into the bone. And all the fans are just like, "Get up, you phony! Get up, you faker!" And Bret was laying there in real trouble. So that's why Bret with Dino reminded me of that. Just a little sub. We just go off on a sub rant. The Greg the Hammer Valentine was third. Paul Romo was fourth. Texas Tornado came out to a thunderous ovation, no pun intended. He was fifth. The model Rick Martel came out as sixth. Saba Simba seventh. Butch the Bushwhackers, then Jake the Snake. At 10 is Hercules. So the star power in the first 10 people weren't as great as the year before. The year before, you had Savage and Piper and Jake the Snake and Andre the Giant. This year just looks like Bret Hart is one of the only big names in the first 10. Then you got Superfly Snuka, British Bulldog, Smash of Demolition, Hawk of the Legion of Doom. Savage came out at didn't come out at number 18, but it was him who came right back up. Warrior chased him away. The other LOD member, Crush from Demolition, then Hacksaw Jim Duggan, then Earthquake, Mr. Perfect, and then all of a sudden Hulk Hogan came out. Perfect and Hogan back-to-back spots after the ending of Royal Rumble 90, where Hogan eliminated Perfect. Place popped big time for Hogan, who was trying to win his second straight Rumble. And Hogan cleared the ring a lot when he got in through many people. Haku came in at 25, The Anvil at 26, Luke of the Bushwhackers 27, one of the Nasty Boys at 28, Warlord at 29, and all 30 men had entered the ring. Martel lasted practically from the beginning to the very end. After 39 guys left the match at this point in the Rumble. Earthquake hammered away on Hogan in the corner. There was Mr. Perfect there. When it came time to the final floor, Rick Martel was eliminated around the 53-minute mark of his run. So Martel lasted 53 minutes, and then we went down to the final four, and it's Earthquake, Bulldog, Hogan, and one of the Nasty Boys. It's not clear from the review I wrote, and I'm trying to remember. I think it was Sags, but don't quote me on that. And then all of a sudden it came down to 2, and it's obviously the big monster Earthquake against Hogan. So Hogan eliminates Earthquake, and at 105.17, one of the longest Rumbles ever, Hogan wins to a pretty big pop. Hogan was peak at this time. He's going to WrestleMania. He's the biggest star in the company. He's just won a second Rumble. He holds the American flag up because that's a sign of what's to come with him and Sergeant Slaughter at WrestleMania. So it did a good job of previewing WrestleMania, but the Rumble wasn't the greatest. I remember Royal Rumble 91 as being one where there was tons of wrestlers in the ring at the same time. That I mentioned in the Rumble before is a good spot you want to have, but I think this one was a little bit too much of that because the names weren't as strong as the year before, and they're definitely not as strong as the year that's coming up, Royal Rumble 92. That's arguably the best. So that's it for the 1991 Royal Rumble. Like and subscribe if you like what I'm doing, and we'll see where we go from here. Thanks, guys.